Welcome, everyone. I'm Jose Ayerve. I'm a member of the board of directors of the Rosenberg Fund for Children. I've been involved with the organization since around 2006. I'm a musician. I work as an editor, a writer, and a translator. I like to use my platform when I can to speak out on issues that are greatly affecting our ability to attain equality, respect, and fairness throughout the world. I'm currently realizing a dream that I've had for a long time, which is that of living in Latin America. We are gathering virtually at a moment when community and intergenerational activism feel as relevant as ever as people around the world grapple with the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. While I wish we could all gather to celebrate in person, I'm thrilled to introduce the individuals who are joining us today to share their thoughts about activism, resistance, and the power of community across generations as part of our virtual celebration of 30 years of the Rosenberg Fund for Children. RFC Advisory Board member Angela Davis is a scholar, activist, writer, and distinguished professor emerita of history of consciousness and feminist studies at the University of California, Santa Cruz. Her work as an educator has always emphasized the importance of building communities of struggle for economic, racial, and gender justice. Having helped to popularize the notion of a prison industrial complex, she now urges her audiences to think seriously about the future possibility of a world without prisons and to help forge a 21st century abolitionist movement. Leah, Grady, Sayvetz, and David Morales are former RFC beneficiaries and have acted as peer mentors for younger RFC grantees at gatherings sponsored by the Rosenberg Fund for Children. Leah lives in Ithaca, New York, where she grew up in the Catholic worker community, which honors Dorothy Day's call to follow the works of mercy and resist the works of war. Her education took place in courtrooms supporting civil resistors, protesting US imperialism, making protest art and puppetry, visiting her mom in federal prison during a 6-month sentence for protesting the Iraq War, and growing food to share with neighbors in her low-income neighborhood. David lives in his hometown of San Diego, California. As a teenager, he was banned from his high school graduation after organizing against the militarization of his school and the marginalization of working class students of color. He's now an educator in the same district, teaching culture, language, critical thinking, and rebellion via 9th and 12th grade Spanish, while continuing to be active with immigrants' rights work. Welcome, Angela, David, and Leah. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. My first question, you've each been involved with the Rosenberg Fund for Children in different ways for a number of years. What is it about the RFC that has been meaningful or inspiring for you and has been part of the reason why you've stayed engaged with us over time and agreed to be part of this event? Why don't we start with David, if that's okay?
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here and to be in company of you all. The Rosenberg Fund for Children for me came into my life at a very, I would say, decisive, a very important moment. As you were explaining earlier, Jose, I was introduced to the Rosenberg Fund for Children soon after I was banned from my high school graduation ceremony for my political work during high school. It was at a time when I had just been accepted to the University of California as the first person in my entire family to be accepted into an institution of higher education in the US. And it was an interesting time. The Rosenberg Fund for Children, I guess, reinforced that idea that it was okay to do the work that I was doing, right? That it's not just all about punishment or losing, but that there's actually people out there that actually support the work that I was doing, the work for justice, So I met the folks and I was introduced to the work of the Rosenberg Fund for Children at that time. And they supported me throughout my 4 years of undergrad. And I was able to continue to do the work that I love to do and that I think is important. It was the Rosenberg Fund for Children that introduced me to a wider community of activists. I remember participating in some of the gatherings and going to Massachusetts. It was one of my first experiences on a plane even, and just being really, feeling really fortunate and honored to be in the presence of other activists, of the children of folks who have made the most, altruistic sacrifices to be in the honor of, in the presence of you all, even, here now, Jose, Leah, and Angela Davis. So the Rosenberg Fund for Children has been really important and special in my life, and I'm completely committed to now giving back and helping RFC meet its goal and mission. It's allowed me to do the work that I love to do to this day.
Thank you. Leah, how about you?
That's a tough act to follow. I also became connected with the Rosenberg Fund for Children when I was a teenager through my mother's activism opposing the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003 and subsequent imprisonment for that action, and was brought to the first Carry It Forward gathering in Massachusetts shortly after, and it was pretty life-changing to get to share a space with other teenagers whose parents and grandparents have been persecuted for their activism, and to learn the diversity of the work that those people's families have been undertaking was very humbling. And it was, I think, really special to have a place for celebration and art for kids with that background. I think having a mother incarcerated for activism, and especially my mom does symbolic activism, so it's not like she went and physically dismantled a thing to stop it from happening. So the symbolism there and sort of the whole context for faith-based symbolic activism is not readily understood by a lot of people. So having a space that was intentionally created to talk about that experience as a family and a community was really special, that the Rosenberg Fund created that, and to learn about the experiences of all of the other beneficiaries who'd come from all over the country and Puerto Rico was, a very enriching experience as a teenager. And it's been a privilege to get to stay connected and ultimately be a peer leader. I think that was back in 2014 at Smith College. That was an event with the parents and the children, which just broadened that impact even further.
Excellent. Thank you. Angela, I know that you and I met some years ago at an event that we held in Boston, and obviously it's very nice to see you again. What do you feel is the inspiring factor, the reason for your being able and being willing to stay involved with the Rosenberg Fund for Children?
I guess you might say that my connection with the Rosenberg Fund for Children predates the actual founding of the organization. And I too was a teenager at the time when I first met Robbie and Michael. We went to high school together. I was attending high school in New York on a program that was organized by the American Friends Service Committee. And then, of course, later, I became a political prisoner. Robbie and Michael were very supportive during that period. I became active in an organization that supported political prisoners. So when the Rosenberg Fund for Children was created, I was naturally drawn to it. I can say that, I have vague memories of the actual date of the execution of Julius and Ethel. I was about 9 years old then. My parents were friends with many people who were active in the campaign to save their lives. And so I guess you might say that my involvement is a consequence of that theme of my life, supporting those who stand up and fight back.
Great, thank you.